Nothing in this recording is intended as investment advice, and the people in this recording may hold positions in the companies they talk about. Do not make any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to Zach's Traders Cafe. Today I'm joined by Jeremy Skillington, who's CEO, and Liam Tremble, who's Principal Scientist at Poolbeg Pharma. How are you today, gents?
Very well, very well.
Right, guys, you recently attended the ESMO or ESMO conference. Can you give us an overview of the conference?
Yeah, happy to do so. So ESMO is the European Society for Medical Oncology conference. It's one of the leading conferences globally for solid cancers and also for hematological malignancies. So just there a couple of weeks ago, there was over 30,000 people attended it in Berlin. So really well attended, a massive amount of innovation in recent years, and it covers all the treatment modalities with a large clinical focus. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us to connect with clinicians, get a feel for the emerging treatments, and see how they feel with the direction of travel, what treatments are going to be dominating the clinic in the future.
And did you discuss, or presumably you did discuss, there's no point going there if you didn't, did you discuss POLB 001 at ESMO?
Yeah, so at the moment, our upcoming trial is focused on the multiple myeloma community. But obviously, this drug has a lot of potential outside multiple myeloma and hematological malignancies as well. So it's really important for us to reach out. So there's a wide number of treatments in the clinic and also in development for solid tumors that have this issue of cytokine release syndrome, which is really a major challenge. So when we go to conferences like this, quite often there's a lot of established groups from big centers, but also a lot of emerging researchers, maybe from smaller centers that are really trying to translate these therapies and get them up and running in their smaller centers. And cytokine release syndrome is something that's really particularly challenging from them. So it's a really great opportunity for us to meet people for whom cytokine release syndrome is a major problem in their clinic, and who would be really interested in participating in upcoming trials, and obviously to get again their sense of where clinical care is going, so what patients will be treated. So that gives us a good idea of how we would be able to design future clinical trials.
So the key takeaway from the conference, how would you describe that?
So in addition to, a lot of interest in POLB 001, in the results coming up next year and potential participation in future trials, it was a great opportunity for us to really get a sense of where the field is going. So solid cancers are dominated at the moment by things like antibody drug conjugates. Checkpoint inhibitors are still major within the environment, but also there's a lot of things emerging that maybe people don't see, like the next generation of immunotherapies that have been a little bit more challenging to penetrate in the solid tumor space compared to the hematological malignancies, where they really have been making a dent over the last 5 to 10 years. So at the moment, there's a lot of early stage products coming through, like CAR T cells, like multi-specific antibodies, that are really going to change the treatment paradigm. A lot of the focus is on the particular challenges of solid cancers, such as the tumor microenvironment, and how elements of that can make it much more difficult for immunotherapies to really exert their beneficial effects. So quite often they need to be a little bit more potent. We have very good targets to use in solid cancers, but quite often it's really generating these immunotherapies to be robust so that the immunosuppressive tumor microenvironment can't switch them off. So a lot of progress being made to fundamentally redesign some of these things like CAR T cells and bispecific antibodies, that they can not just go into the tumor and exert their effects, but have a very durable effect as well, which is quite important for the patient. So obviously, as they make these more potent, quite often the side effects can go up. So it's a really exciting space for us to be involved in.
So we move on to Jeremy, who's so far been a good listener. You've recently returned from BioEurope. How was the conference, and how do your current programs, such as POLB 001, 001, and your oral GLP1 position itself to stand out at this partnering conference?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Yeah, so just back from BioEurope last week, myself and our CFO, Ian O'Connell, came. BioEurope, has to be said, is probably the premier partnering event, I would say, kind of in Europe, but probably globally as well. There's about 6,000 attendees. They said it was about 3,000 companies from 60 countries. and there was 30,000 one-on-one meetings scheduled. So pretty robust and a little bit different from Liam's conference. So this is really kind of partnering. This is where the pharma companies, biotech companies send their partnering teams to meet with various companies, Poolbeg being an example, to understand their pipelines, understand their product, understand their stage of development, and see then if they're a specific fit for such a pipeline. So I was having here with dozens of meetings, lots of discussions, follow-ups actually from previous meetings, whether they're medical conferences or previous partnering events. But I think what was really intriguing for us is now that we're essentially late stage preparation for phase 2A trial, the CRS prevention trial, that really grabbed people's attentions. And we targeted companies that both had, say, cancer immunotherapies themselves, where CRS is an issue, but also importantly, some supportive care companies whose strategy is that they develop drugs that help cancer patients recover from their treatments. So very well received, very really good discussions, lots of follow-up. So that's going to keep us busy for the next week or so. But get these conversations kind of going, because again the timing is great. For us, as I say, getting this clinical trial started, having our interim data readout summer of next year, and then partnering discussions will advance rapidly from there.
So obviously, BioEurope is all about connections, networking, and partnerships.
Yeah.
What type of partnerships are you seeking this year?
Yeah. So as I say, a lot of discussions we have so far is like they're very intrigued with what we're doing, waiting or wanting to see this phase 2A data. As I said, the prevention of CRS in patients, multiple myeloma, relapsed refractory multiple myeloma patients receiving a bispecific antibody. As I say, the timing is great because we're laying groundwork. As I say, you could say that we're kind of warming up the companies in what we're doing. So the type of deal, type of structure, could be some kind of a collaboration. It could be a license deal. It could acquire the product, acquire the company. So we're open and very flexible to that aspect. We did, as I say, I mentioned over 60 countries were covered. We talked to companies from many different countries, whether it was Asia or the US or Europe. But again, casting a wide net on opportunities of POLB 001, because we do see this could be a game changer when it comes to preventing CRS in these cancer immunotherapy patients. So, very excited about that. So, yeah, as I said, we're warming up the crowd and looking forward to those deeper discussions when we have data in hand next summer.
So, I mean, you recently announced a collaboration with ACT regarding POLB 001 and the phase 2 trial there. Does that still mean that you had to attend the trial? Attend the conference? Is that the sort of how important?
Yeah, I mean, like ACT are doing a terrific job. Yeah, they're kind of what's called a contract research organization. They're CRO. They'll run the clinical trial for us, and they're vastly experienced in the UK multiple myeloma community. So, fantastic company to run this trial for us. And we'll still be involved, of course. Again, part of the discussions that BioEurope was explaining to these companies what the clinical trial design looked like, what the timing was like, what as I say, what we're expecting to see. We've stated previously that CRS occurs in about 70% of the patients that receive this bispecific antibody. So we want to see obviously that reduced. Everybody wants to see that reduced. And what this will do then is allow patients to essentially return home. They're not taking up beds in these dedicated cancer clinics. So they can, preventing CRS, they get home, back to their families, very quickly, which is great for the patients, great for physicians who don't need to, give that added extra care when CRS develops, and great for payers as well, who obviously don't have to fund or pay for patients staying in hospital longer. So putting all these pieces together, get the trial up and running, and then, as I say, from there, partnering once we have that data in hand.
So you've been around the world or around Europe, I suppose. We've been at these two conferences. Is that the end of the conference season, or was there a little bit more to squeeze out before Christmas?
Yeah, actually, no, we're kind of running full speed. There's always a rush, the Q4 rush to the end of the year. Next week, we're attending the London Healthcare Weeks, what was called Jeffries. And what's been great is obviously it's closer to home being in London, but it's, again, setting up these kind of continuity conversations, the pharma companies and, those that we spoke to at BioEurope previously, kind of just continuing the discussion, kind of explain to maybe a different team, that beyond the business development teams, and it really is a terrific week in London. It's grown exponentially over the last several years. Lots of leaders, executives, investors, innovators coming into town. obviously, pharma and biotech specific. So again, it's perfect timing to kind of get them, on their mindset before, the beginning of next year. Then we head off to JP Morgan in San Francisco. And that's another story for another year. But I think importantly, Liam, you can kind of comment on the ASH conference, which again is a very important medical conference that Poolbeg be attending. So again, looking forward to the run into the end of the year. Lots of work to do, as I say, follow up. But I think ASH will be an important one. Liam, if you want to discuss that, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So definitely not the end of the conference season just yet. A while more to go before Christmas sets in. But yeah, ASH, the American Society for Hematology conference at early December in Orlando, the premier kind of event for hematology every year. So it's going to be really important for us to get over there. It's an opportunity that the big pharma companies take to present lots of their emerging data. So all of the big companies will be represented there, all of the emerging therapies, all the cutting edge data. So it's a really great opportunity to connect not just with the medical community, but also with pharma as well at ASH.
Right. So we talked about obviously these you enjoyed yourself at these conferences, and it does seem to be at least from a stock market perspective, and many of your peers are more popular than they were, let's say, even a few months ago. Do you see a revival in sentiment towards the biotech sector in general?
Yeah, that's a definite yes. I think there's been a lot of movement. I think over the last several years, people are talking about turning the corner and turning the corner when it's going to happen. And I think people can now agree that that has happened. And there's been a couple of events. I think confidence is a main driver, and the biotech index in the US, the XBI, was hovering around 70 or so, for the last kind of several years, but it's climbed up over 100 recently, and that kind of shows confidence. People are investing in companies. I think there's been some kind of challenges, some attrition of some companies, but then others are excelling and bringing confidence back in. I think what the main driver of that is company formation. Obviously, you get funding and financing initially from venture capitalists. And what comes back then is the return on their previous investments. And what you're seeing is lots of activity in the M&A space. And I think more recently, as people have been aware that Pfizer have acquired Metsera, in competition with Novo Nordisk. And again, that's in the oral, it's in the GLP-1 space. And as you know, we've got a program in that area. But that really shows that big pharma are now willing to spend to acquire these earlier stage companies. And that kind of helps fuel the engine of VCs investing back into new companies. So there's definitely the sentiment has turned. I think people are appreciating the innovation out of there. There's so many unmet medical needs. Liam talked about 30,000 people at ESMO. There's a lot of work going on in these in the medical space, in the pharmaceutical space, in the biotech space. Lots of innovation. Lots of people driven to improve patient care. And I think the markets are seeing that there is scope for investment, and obviously scope for return on investment. So I think it's a great time to be in biotech. We've been through the cold winter, I believe, but obviously looking for brighter times ahead.
Jeremy Skillington and Liam Tremble from Poolbeg, thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate it, Zach.
I noticed the magic letters GLP-1, which is probably the most famous set of letters in the world, and numbers, I suppose. Oral GLP-1 could be, everybody knows that it could be a massive game changer. People currently injecting themselves every week, and like heroin addicts, which is not ideal. If you can crack the oral weight loss treatment, surely Poolbeg was going to go, it's going to be like a blue chip FTSE 100 company.
Yeah, I like the way you describe that, Zach. Yeah, as mentioned previously, we have an oral GLP-1 technology that we're preparing for a proof of concept clinical trial. And again, we hope to have data on that, by kind of early, say mid next year. So that's going on the manufacturing phase right now and kind of getting clinical trial. We've selected a site, University of Ulster, principal investigator Carel LaRue. But you're absolutely right. If you can transition from your kind of weekly or daily injections, wherever it might be, depending on drug, to just having orally delivered GLP-1 with your morning coffee, that's fantastic. I think the convenience will be very attractive to pharma partners. And as I say, if the data comes out positive in clinical trial, I think you're right. I think that'll drive the success of the company. So again, looking forward to that, as I say, executing on that side of things as well. But there is a high demand for that. I think not only the reduction is the healthcare benefits associated with a decrease in obesity. You're seeing improved benefits, cardiovascular disease and renal diseases. even in addictions, for example. Like, so, terrific drug, game changer. But you're right, if we can deliver that ORI, fantastic. So hopefully data will be positive on that, middle of next year, and obviously partnering will follow with the big players, because these are big trials. But driving value in Poolbeg, fantastic. That's the way we want to see it.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.